the story. We're joined out of Seattle by Mr. Richard Silverstein, journalist and political commentator. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Silverstein. Your thoughts, please, on the plight of Palestinian children in Israeli jails.
Well, this is yet another new development in the annals of the occupation, with nearly 400 children detained in violation of international law. We can compare this to other countries which the world considers to be violators of human rights, like North Korea and other countries, but very few countries, if any, mass incarcerate children in this way. I have written in my blog about incidents where Israeli police have cocked their pistols next to the ear or on the temple of a child and threatened to pull the trigger. They've threatened to kill their parents in order to get them to admit to something as small as throwing a rock at Israeli police. This really shows the bankruptcy of the occupation. It shows the bankruptcy of the Israeli garrison state. It doesn't have anything to offer its own citizens or the world except police and weapons and beating children. It's just a ghastly situation.
And Mr. Silverstein, your take on reports that Palestinian children are receiving harsher sentences and worse treatment in Israeli prisons than Israeli settlers who carry out attacks on Palestinians. These are grown adult-age settlers who carry out attacks on Palestinians.
Well, there's two separate sets of laws in the occupied territories. There is one set for Israeli citizens who are settlers, and there is another for Palestinians. And Israeli settlers are treated extremely leniently. They're hardly ever arrested. They're hardly ever sentenced to any prison time. And these are settlers who have killed Palestinians and maimed them and shot them and burned olive groves and farmland and crimes like this. And they are treated almost as if they're national heroes, while the Palestinians can do something much less significant in terms of violation of law, and they get much harsher sentences. And this is what observers call apartheid. This is Israeli apartheid, where they treat one nationality with leniency and they treat another with tremendous harshness.
Thank you much for your input, Mr. Richard Silverstein, joining us out of Seattle, Washington, journalist and political commentator.
This is proud new father, 34-year-old James Rivenberg of Philmont in Columbia County. Police say they got to meet the #1 dad after they were called to Columbia Memorial yesterday afternoon because the staff thought both he and the child's mother were on drugs. Staff told police the couple was passed out.
Just under a pound of marijuana and a quantity of heroin and also a few hypodermic needles.
Here's the stash: the drugs, 3 needles, and $1,200 in cash. Police say they found it in the man's backpack. Police charged him with felony possession of marijuana and 2 misdemeanors for the needles and the heroin. He was sent to county jail on $1,000 bail. The detective says this is a first.
You could smell the marijuana as soon as you went onto the floor of where they were.
Mom hasn't been charged yet. Police say the child is okay. He or she wasn't in the room when police came in. The child was actually born at a home in Philmont. Then the family came to the hospital.
Morning. Police in Pittsfield are asking for your help finding this missing teenager. The department is trying to locate 15-year-old India Rain Henke. On their Facebook page, police described her as being 5'4", about 120 pounds, with brown eyes and hair. She was last seen wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt. If you have any information on Henke, you're asked to call Pittsfield Police at the number on your screen. That's 448-9700.
Peshmerga fighters, with the help of the Golden Division elite unit of the Iraqi army, have launched a new offensive to push ISIL militants out of the villages around Mosul. The northern Iraqi city is the jihadist group's last major stronghold in the country. Local forces, backed by the US-led coalition, have been steadily recovering ground surrounding the city since Monday and are now focusing on a group of villages some 20 kilometres to the north and east. Reports suggest this could be the final big push before entering Mosul itself, where an estimated 5,000 ISIL fighters still reside. This commander says currently the operation is going smoothly, sometimes even faster than expected. We'll soon be able to announce the happy news that we've liberated Mosul and wiped out terrorism. People are starting to return home to some of the retaken villages. However, combat appears far from over, and ISIL is not expected to give up its stronghold easily.
A new murder charge has been filed against a Springfield man accused of beating a 5-month-old baby to death in 2014. 34-year-old Miguel Fonseca Colon was ordered held without bail after pleading not guilty at his arraignment in Springfield District Court on Tuesday. The new charge comes just days after 4 indictments against Fonseca Colon were dismissed. The judge ruled that prosecutors failed to present statements in 2014 to a grand jury from the baby's mother and aunt. Authorities said the baby, Jadamir Cintron, suffered 32 fractures and died from blunt force.
Back to our other top story. The mayor of Agawam fired 3 police officers today after a 4-month investigation into a use of force incident. 22 News reporter Tashani Whitlow is live in Agawam with community reaction.
22 News went into Agawam and spoke with residents, and it was mixed reaction about the news of the officers being fired. 3 Agawam police officers were fired following a 4-month investigation. Mayor Richard Cohen fired the officers for what the chief called a use of force incident. David Desjardins was arrested at Six Flags and brought here to the Agawam Police Department. He was charged with disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, and assault and battery on a police officer. The incident happened this past June and was caught on camera. Wednesday, Mayor Cohen fired Sergeant Anthony Grasso, Officer Edward Connor, and Officer John Amacchio for their involvement.
We all need to be held accountable for our actions. So if the proper investigations were done and the wrongdoings were found, and this is the consequences of their actions, then unfortunately, it's a no-win situation for everyone involved.
The owner said some Agawam police officers, including Sergeant Grasso, like to come to his barbershop 2 doors down from the police station. He told 22 News the 3 officers being fired was a hot topic.
The police here in town, they do to the best of their abilities, without stepping over the line. I've never heard of an incident where they've stepped over the line here in town.
Attorney John Connor, who represents the fired police officers, told 22 News they're appealing the mayor's decision and they were only following the procedures they were trained to do. At this time, there is a criminal investigation by the Hampton County District Attorney's Office into the actions of these 3 officers. Live in Agawam, Tashani Whitlow, 22 News.
24's Wasim Nasr is on set with us for more. Welcome to the set, Wasim. What is the latest situation on the ground?
Actually, we know that since 3 days, the Kurdish forces, the Peshmerga forces, are trying to get closer to Mosul from the east. And from the southeast, we have the government forces, which is the Iraqi army, the Iraqi police, and Shia militias. And if we can see the map, it would be great, because we can see that the access from the south is much harder. They're having a hard time to advance because of the geography of the region there. So they took a town and then they had a setback, and the fighting is ongoing in a region, in this very specific region that the Islamic State is still able to send kamikaze attacks and fighters to fight this. So it's really hard to advance today from Kayara, where French artillery and U.S. artillery and special forces are present. On the other hand, the Peshmerga succeeded in advancing in many villages because it's easier. The geography is much easier for them, and they are trying to take a region called Hamadaniye, getting them closer to the outskirts of Mosul. So we are still far from the town itself. And we should remember also that the operations to get near Mosul started as far as 6 months ago by taking the base and the airport, the military airport of Qayyara.
So how far are forces today from Mosul?
We are still many kilometers away. We are not at artillery range, so this is why the coalition airplanes are bombing the outskirts today of Mosul, and this is why also Turkish fighters are also bombing the region. And the aim of this is to destroy the first defenses, or the first line and the second line of defenses, before reaching the urban areas. So today we are witnessing fighting in villages and in open spaces. We are not in the urban warfare as it happened before, for example, in Fallujah, Ramadi, Beji, or Tikrit, where we saw that the whole town was completely destroyed and the population completely evacuated at the time. We might witness such a scenario, but as you said before, it might take months before this can happen, for very military and pragmatic reasons, because they cannot advance without creating outposts for artillery and for tanks, for example.
All right, thank you so much, Wasim Nash, for joining us there with the latest on that offensive to retake Mosul, the Islamic State group's last remaining bastion in Iraq.
2 minutes, and tonight we are learning more about the death of a 10-month-old baby. The man accused of killing the little girl, Marcus Alston, appeared in court for the first time. CBS North Carolina Steve Sprague joins us now from the Wake County Justice Center. Steve.
Well, Sharon, prosecutors provided fresh detail when Alston made his first appearance in court here earlier today. Those details, along with a gut-wrenching 911 call, gave us a clearer indication of what took place Sunday night when that little girl died.
Is she awake? No, I'm doing mouth-to-mouth. I'm doing the child CPR. Nothing's working. She got like boogers and stuff coming out of her nose when I do the CPR.
Prosecutors say Marcus Alston was alone with toddler Linnea Pierce and her twin in this apartment building Sunday night when he called 911 to say the infant girl was not breathing.
Her body is completely limp.
Okay.
Come on. You can't down. Don't down. Please don't down. Come on. Don't down. Come on. Don't leave you. Right now. Come on. Please.
But the prosecutor says by the time first responders arrived, there was nothing they could do.
He called 911 at approximately 8:20 in the evening and reported that the child was unresponsive. The child's 10 months old. EMS and the Raleigh Police Department, as well as the fire department, responded. When EMS arrived, they noted that the child was cool to the touch and that some rigor mortis had already set in.
Arrest warrants obtained by CBS North Carolina say the infant suffered a lacerated kidney and a liver. Nobody answered the door to the apartment where Alston lived with his girlfriend, but on the ground in front of that door, a single flower was placed there by somebody. Just across the hall, neighbor Calvin Frey was caught up in the emotion of the events.
Yeah, my heart goes out to that family. I'm sorry for what happened, and they hope he get what he deserves, because that's not right.
The judge ordered Alston to continue to be held with no bond. Prosecutors also told the judge during the first appearance that he made several statements to police. They said those statements were inconsistent in connection with the injuries to that child. Reporting live, I'm Steve Sprague, CBS North Carolina.